everyone, and welcome to another episode of Murrow Minutes Goes Virtual for the summer edition. My name is Mackenzie Johnson, and I will be your host today, along with some awesome guest speakers that we put together for you. As you can see from the title of this video, we are going to be talking about experiential learning in the Murrow College. So we've gathered some of our awesome professors, as well as one of our student ambassadors. You guys have met Katie before, to kind of talk about what it means in the Murrow College to present experiential learning in our classroom, in our clubs, in our extracurriculars. So we have some really exciting speakers to talk to you about that today. The first thing I do want to do today, though, is kind of turn it over to Katie to see if she really kind of has an idea of what experiential learning means to her as a student. So, Katie, my first question to you about this topic before we jump right in and turn it over to our guest speakers is, what does experiential learning mean to you as a Murrow student?
For me, I think experiential learning is really just kind of getting your hands dirty in what you love to do. So whether you're journalism or stratcom or any of that, I think it's really just learning those skills that you'll need in the workforce. And Murrow does a really good job of allowing you to learn these skills, from producing your own newscast to writing your own press releases to running a social media campaign account. I think it's just really learning these skills. It's getting out of the textbook and getting out of the theories and really learning how to do these things firsthand. So when you go to the job market, you have a really great portfolio for you, full of work you've already done. So I think experiential learning is experiencing what you're going to do out in the workforce and really building those skills that you'll need and that an employer will look for.
I couldn't have said it better myself. That's exactly why we have Katie here today. As a student, she really gets to jump in and be a part of all of that. So it's really great to hear from her perspective about what Murrow does great in the classroom and outside of the classroom to prepare our students to be really great in the workforce wherever they may decide to go. The other question I do have for you, Katie, kind of related to that is, do you think there's a reason why it might be really important to do that in communication versus maybe any other subject, like maybe engineering or science? Why is it really, really important for communication students, particularly, to have that experiential learning before they get hired?
Definitely. So I think that a big part of the communication in general, no matter where you fall in your major, is writing. And the only way you can get better at writing is to do it and to practice these things. So I think writing press releases and writing scripts and just doing all of these skills that are really important can really push you ahead of other people who've only learned about writing but have not necessarily have practiced this type of writing, because it's definitely like a different style and it's something to adjust to. So I think that's really important for comm students. And comm is really, as you start applying for internships and jobs, they want to see a portfolio full of things you've already done and what your skills already are. So I think the experiential learning that Murrow offers really allows you to build a portfolio that can set you apart from any other applicants when you're applying for internships or jobs in whatever the field may be.
Another great answer from Katie. Thank you so much for sharing that. Like I said, it's really great to have that student perspective as we go in and start looking at exactly what Murrow does well, particularly in this time with COVID, and how we've had to kind of adjust what we do in the classroom to still give that experiential learning experience, like I said, but maybe having it look a little bit different, in the coming semesters. So thank you so much for sharing that with us, Katie. We really appreciate it. But without much further ado, I want to turn it over to the people that are actually in charge of this for the Murrow College, and that's our faculty. Those are our faculty members that do that for us. So rather than me talking about what you can do in the classroom and what you can do outside of the classroom in the Murrow College, we have three awesome guest speakers here with us today, and I'm going to give them each a little bit of time to talk about what they do, like I said, either in their classroom experience or things that they do outside of the classroom to give their students a really unique experience that ultimately makes them, like Katie said, really competitive for the job market. So let's go ahead and turn it over to them, and then we'll kind of wrap up here in the video, and you guys can follow up with any questions that you have as usual. So first, I'm going to turn it over to Chelsea Newman. She's going to talk a little bit about PRSSA and Bateman and some of the real world experience that they get that students can have through those organizations.
Thanks, Mackenzie. I appreciate that. My name is Chelsea, as she said, Chelsea Newman, and I'm a scholarly assistant professor in the Murrow College. And I think one thing that I heard Caitlin mention that I'd like to capitalize on further as I discuss this is that practice does bring improvement. And that's what we try and do is bring some real world scenarios and even practice scenarios to our students in ways that can help them to grow and head into the job market ready and fully equipped to be successful. And I specifically want to talk about a couple examples of how we do that in the Stratcom, Strategic Communication Department. And one way I'd like to talk about that we do that is Bateman, or excuse me, PRSSA, the Public Relations Student Society of America. And essentially, what this is it's a large student organization, and it's student led. And during the transition from COVID to, or from real life to COVID, what we had the opportunity to do, even in the midst of all of the craziness, is allow students to hold webinars, right? And we'd bring in a number of different really qualified professionals, and we would talk about how they're transitioning in industry with COVID, and ways to get jobs and ways to equip yourself and get your resume ready so that you can be successful in entering that job market. So, along with that, normally, a lot of times we have the opportunity to travel, which hopefully we will again eventually. But and have students participate in field trips and see organizations that are successful in doing what they do. And in the meantime, we have the opportunity to connect with them and make that happen in a different way. So, would love to have students get involved in PRSSA. It's a great opportunity, way to really get your feet wet, your hands dirty, understand more about what you have to look forward to in industry, and be successful in it essentially. So, please do reach out to me if you do have interest. Newman6 at wsu.edu is a great way to connect with me and get a hold of me for that. And we would love to welcome you with open arms. Additionally, one thing that Murrow really prides itself in and is very excited about is what's known as the Bateman team. It's a case study competition where a number of students get involved in development of an actual public relations campaign, and they're competing with colleges all across the nation. So we're able to gather these students together. They have different roles, they have different jobs on this team. And essentially, from August all the way through until about April, they're working on developing an actual public relations campaign, implementing this campaign, and then seeing what those results are and hopefully placing in the national competition. And this is an example of an actual brief for a client that we worked with last year. Our students did receive an honorable mention, worked very hard, learned how to navigate the digital campaign world, develop and write press releases, develop a website and launch a website. Basically, from beginning to end, we watched these students develop a full course public relations campaign. So it was on the 2020 census. They came up with an actual case study and turned it in. So you'll see that there's a number of students, some of whom you may know, and have given me permission to use this. And a lot of their research and work that they had done, pages and pages, in fact, that they came up with that brought them to the place where they were able to receive an honorable mention and go forth into the world and be very successful in what they're doing now. So we're really excited about that. So ultimately, both of these, the PRSSA and the Bateman team, are great ways for StratCom students to get involved and get their hands dirty, as was said before. And all of those who I've talked to upon leaving Murrow after they've graduated have said that there's nothing but excitement that came out of those experiences for them, skills and an ability to grow and walk into whatever organization they ended up at and know that they're equipped with the right tools and experience in order to be successful. So we enjoy it. We love it. In any case, if you want to be involved in Bateman or in PRSSA, please reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you. Newman6, Newman6 at wsu.edu.
Thanks so much for sharing with us, Chelsea. We really appreciate that. I've heard wonderful things from students about getting involved in both PRSSA and the Bateman team, and it really does just give you that competitive edge that even Katie mentioned as well, over other applicants that may be going towards jobs in public relations or other fields in communication. It just kind of gives you that competitive edge because you already have that built in your resume and in your portfolio. So thank you so much for sharing those experiences with us. Next, we're going to turn it over to Matt Loveless, who's going to talk a little bit about some of the experiential learning that his students have done. Like I said, I'll turn it over to him and let him kind of explain what our students have done both through COVID and even before that, and how he engages his students in the classroom. So, Matt, I'll turn it over to you.
Mackenzie, thank you. I'll introduce myself first. Matt Loveless. I teach the TV news classes, beginning TV reporting and advanced TV news. We essentially train the news reporters, the news anchors, the sports anchors, weather people. That's kind of my thing, and that was what I did for a long time before coming here. So I tried to bring some experience from my time in the professional world there. I always tell people when we talk about my classes, it's a lot of time. I don't think they're hard. Maybe that's just me, but it is very time consuming. We spend hours, 22 hours a week in the classroom with one class. And so it is a lot of time, but it's all about repetition. And so when you talk about this experiential learning, we're talking about getting students just to do things over and over again. Or, in the journalism and media production, there are so many things where we just can't sit in the classroom and tell you how to be a news reporter. We can't tell you how to ask somebody questions. You have to get out there and go do it. And so with my classes, it's all about going out and storytelling. It's all about sitting on the news desk 5 days a week, getting a lot of experience that way. We also have a documentary production course taught by Connolly Roden, fantastic course where basically the whole semester is about putting on this documentary, pitching it, having this idea, learning the ins and outs of not just the storytelling aspects of it, but the production of it. My class also partners with another 400 level class, Conjure 455, which is the production arm of the Murrow News 8 newscast, which I should introduce that. Murrow News 8 is our 5-day-a-week newscast that we produce here on campus that is completely done beginning to end by students. I offer a little early semester guidance, and then they're off producing their own content, their own 15-minute and half-hour newscasts every weekday. So it's amazing work. They partner with production. We also have sports media classes. So if you have certain sports interests, you can do that. I should also give a shout out to Lisa Wannon and Jones, who kind of spearheads the Rural Plunge, which is a fantastic fall event. The status of which for this fall, I wouldn't be too optimistic about, but it's great because we set up stories or we send students off into various towns around Pullman, which is already rural in and of itself. We put you in maybe a little uncomfortable situation, but you get to tell stories about that community, things that matter to those people. And we have so many programs in JMP that get you out in the world actually doing the job. And I like this because this is what I was so used to in doing my job, is being out, talking to people, experiencing the world. I don't know any other way to teach this class other than to treat it as if it's a professional newsroom. And to Katie's point, a lot of this is about preparation for jobs. Well, my Conjure 465 class, for those who want to be in television, is the last step before graduation. My hope is that you have a job offer before you turn in your final project. And we did have a few students, who were fortunate enough, even amid COVID, to be able to do that. Now, I'd love to show just a little bit of what we do. In fact, almost a little promo video for you.
I need it for
Fade up on camera 3, Mike Q.
And so that is it's not just what we did. I add a little flair to that. Not every day is that exciting. And I don't know if anybody else watched that and goes, man, they're so close together. What are all the students doing next to each other? so that is part of our preparation. You see all of the people in that room. I make the joke that, wow, there's a lot of people in that room. That's how many people it takes to do this together. So it's all these cogs in this machine that need to work together to make a newscast work. So I'll share again, just because I want you to see some of our pre-COVID, what our newscasts look like. And I'll just show you like a minute or so of it. You don't need to see a whole lot of it. But Murrow News 8 is, it's our bread and butter here, at least on the TV broadcasting side of things. And we have a whole YouTube channel if you ever want to check it out.
Tonight, the Pullman-Moscow Regional Airport may add a new destination to its schedule. Find out where flights out of Pullman could take you in the future.
And where a man's body ended up after he was killed. Murrow News 8 starts now.
From the Northwest Public Broadcasting Studios on the campus of Washington State University, this is Murrow News 8.
Good evening, I'm Caitlin Rappel.
And I'm Ariel Yacobazi. Welcome back to Murrow News 8.
The U.S. Department of Transportation announces their approval of a grant that would provide commercial air service between Pullman, Moscow.
So I don't need to make you watch the whole newscast, but there you see it's a pretty standard newscast. But all of this, all of the writing, all the production of it, this is all done by students in coordination with 465 and 455. Now, something happened in March. We didn't come back. And so we have this class and we have this set of curriculum where it is absolutely essential. It seems absolutely essential that we have to get together. You can't do a two-person newscast, 4 people on a desk. We just couldn't do that anymore. We couldn't even compel them to come up to campus if they wanted to. So we had to come up with a way to be able to do daily news. Now, I'll be honest, that was a little bit of a scary thing to think about when that first happened, because you go, how are we going to be able to do this? Because at the very least, we're going to have to retrain on something. Luckily, that was during spring break. What we did was I kind of evaluated what news organizations were doing, and a few of them started doing some reports from home. We're still seeing deep into this summer, people reporting from their dens and their bedrooms and their living rooms on professional news stations. And so when I saw that, I said, we have no excuse. And so what we did, without getting into too much details, we retrained on some software. We found ways, in fact, similar to the way you're watching this video, we're able to produce content that looks professional. And then maybe, some of the, we're up against internet signals and, internet quality, things like that. So maybe it's not as crisp and clean as you would hope it would be. But we were able to produce some content that was professional quality. Now let's see if I can go ahead and find an example of what we ended up doing. I have several examples. There was one day where we had an earthquake about 5 minutes before the newscast started.
Murrow News 8 starts right now.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jasmine Brown.
And I'm Carmen Ditto. We've had reports of an earthquake being felt across multiple states, epicentered out of Stanley, Idaho. Jasmine, you said you felt it there in Pullman?
I did. I actually felt one earlier this morning, and I was a little hesitant because, you don't think there's an earthquake. So we were on the Zoom meeting earlier with, our classmates, and everyone felt it on the Palouse. So it just makes me realize that there might have been 2, but I definitely felt the first one this morning, Carmen.
Wow, very interesting to see as we're learning more there. We've got Asher lined on weather today. Asher, do you have any updates on that for us?
So there you go. About the same amount there. Now, we put the little locators there to show you our news anchors were anchoring the news together from Moscow, Idaho, and Alameda, California. And we were doing that within a week of returning from spring break. And so our job, I said it was a daunting task, but our job is to figure out how to do this, and is to make sure that you understand we're getting you ready for the professional world. Some of the students you see in those videos were needing jobs 6 weeks after we were trying to figure out how to do remote newscasts. And so that experiential learning portion of it, making sure that we're prepared for the things that they do in the real world, is really important. Now, not to toot our own horn, but we were fully remote doing our newscast before a lot of our professional peers were doing it. Some of that was necessity. Necessity is the mother of invention, but that got us going. Now, I do want to show one more piece of video. I thought of this near the end of the semester because I was so proud of what our students did. In fact, we started one of our pre-recorded newscasts before we actually got rolling, and we were still working on some run-throughs. We reported on the very first case of coronavirus in Snohomish County, which those of you might remember was the first reported case in the United States. And so our semester was sort of built around the growing coronavirus. And so I went ahead and put together a little promo video, and I gave it to my students just to show, here's what you did this semester. Every day may have felt like a slog, and coming back may have felt a little daunting and trying to figure out how to do this. But here's what you came up with.
Several other places around the world are reporting their first case of coronavirus.
A coronavirus is an umbrella term.
20 people have died in King County.
The government already told the public, do not go to crowded place.
Stay home if you are sick.
The elderly are one of the most vulnerable groups to this disease.
The coronavirus death toll has risen to 9 today, with all deaths being in Washington state.
Students abroad in Italy currently are being asked to return home.
Classes will move online after spring break.
This map you see is from the Chase Lab at Washington State.
You decided you want to withdraw from a course for some reason. We've extended that deadline to May 1st.
Governor Jay Inslee extended Washington's stay-at-home order through May 4th.
The medical clinic is still available and open for in-person consultation.
I didn't, pay tuition to go online classes.
A lot of this year has kind of stripped away from me.
Within the last couple of weeks and days, now all of that's kind of turned upside down.
So that's all. It's a piece of marketing there that shows that we were there sort of from beginning. Obviously, a lot's happened since we finished that semester, and I know even some of the students, the newshounds among them, maybe wishes that they were able to continue to cover it in that way. But several of those students are now working in professional newsrooms and getting to experience the real world news coverage of it. So my class isn't just about doing those things. It's also about producing those kinds of videos in short order and just getting your hands on content that, for the creative among us. And of course, that's a big thing here in the communication college. I should also mention, that we have things like Cable 8, our extracurriculars allow you to do more stuff like that, maybe even be a little more freewheeling and creative with your ideas, shows you want to pitch, things like that. All of that I just showed you is within the structure of a class. And so I think before, I took those classes. I'm a WSU grad. And so I think before you go into that, you don't think you get to do that much. And you really do get to do a little bit of everything, more so than you may ever do again in your professional career as you narrow it down. So that's my little spiel. But I think it's great. I love the news course. I love teaching it. I love taking it. And it is a lot of fun. You get to have some fun.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. We really, really appreciate that. What a great way for students to get involved. One of your students actually this last semester, Jane, she's actually one of our student ambassadors. She put together a great piece about the coronavirus, and it was before all of the stay-at-home orders actually went into effect. So we actually showed her piece that she put together. We actually showed that during one of our recruitment events, again, before everything was canceled. And so you guys were really on top of it as far as recognizing what was going on and having your students actually put together meaningful stories and really getting out there and saying, hey, this is what you're going to do in the real world. And so it was just a super cool experience for her to be able to have that in her portfolio, like I said, before things even went at stay at home. So thank you so much for sharing with us. We really appreciate that. And as usual, I'll go ahead and post all of our faculty's contact information at the end of this video. So if you have additional questions for Chelsea or Matt, we'll definitely share that with you. We do have one more faculty member that I do want you guys to hear from. She's really, really great in the Murrow College here for us. Rebecca Cooney, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you to kind of talk about what you do with your students both in and out of the classroom. And then, like I said, we'll make sure and post her contact information as well for any additional questions that you may have for her. So I'll turn it over to you, Rebecca.
Thank you. It's really fun to see what Matt put together and Chelsea as well. We all work in the same college, even though we're strategic communication, common society, journalism. We all have these different ways of providing experiential learning opportunities for our students. So I am Rebecca Cooney, and I am Clinical Associate Professor of Strategic Communication at Murrow College. I'm going to show you just a couple of things. Chelsea and I actually teach a few of the same classes, so it's sort of fun to see different perspectives. I'm going to talk to you just a little bit about Center for Civic Engagement projects that happen in our classes. CCE partnerships happen all across Murrow disciplines. I believe last semester we had more than 17 partners across about 9 different courses. That will continue to, regardless of being in person or online. And some of it'll adjust in different forms. This is just the page that I created for the CCE partnership. My particular focus the last few semesters has been in public health awareness. And what we have done is we have what are called Center for Civic Engagement, or CCE leads, which are past students who have not yet graduated, but they are using independent study and internship credit to lead teams of 5 to 7 students who are working on very specific projects. So last semester, I had 3 teams working on public health, food insecurity, and mental health awareness. And so these are just a few pictures of students working together within the classroom and outside the classroom. Our partners that we worked with, we're continuing a long-term partnership with Whitman County Public Health that will continue next semester. I have a student, a past student, who's going to serve as the CCE lead for Whitman County. Very relevant, especially right now, as our primary partner is dealing with vaccination, of course, all of the COVID notifications, and just raising public health awareness during pandemic. We also have a new faculty member who is taking on a few other clients with the CCE model. She'll be working with the Council on Aging and Human Services, a water pollution prevention program, and the Phoenix Conservancy. So it's really exciting for these students who get to work with past students as their leads, who take them through developing various promotional materials, websites, social media, public relations, media relations, just a full gamut of different activities that they do to produce materials that are used in real time for these partners. I also want to share another class is called ComStrat 310, Digital Content Promotion. Chelsea is one of the peer instructors on this course as well. This is where we have teams of students who come together. And again, whether it's in class or in virtual, this will continue. The teams get together and they develop what may be mock companies or what also may be advocacy groups. And they start from scratch and they work together to create website, social media, original content and brand. And then they initiate 2 campaigns that are done through social media, web, on paid advertising, among other things. They also do full Google Analytics and metrics, search engine optimization. They work with about 13 different web-based tools through the whole process of the course. They meet regularly with each other as well as the faculty member. And so this is just there's a 6-part process that they go through over the 15 weeks. They develop websites. So Front Row Sports, I chose this as an example because this is a group that originally started as a mock company, but ended up shifting into this different place where they became more of an advocacy group. And so their website focused more on sports, and they pivoted for COVID and dealt with what was happening in the professional sports realm during COVID and how football had to make adjustments, basketball, baseball, and so forth. And they also develop Facebook and Instagram. They had a tremendous amount of response. They did a lot of curated content, bringing in video from various sources as well as original content. They talked a lot about what was going on in these different sports. Golf was also a big topic during this time. They had a tremendous amount of success in Instagram as well. And then they also do a final poster at the end of the This is kind of small, hard to see, but the culminating poster gives them a chance to look at everything that they did from beginning to end over the 15 weeks. Just a showcase of the work that they produced, both from a creative concept development as well as the materials that they produced for social media, and then a highlighting of all of the metrics and all that they learned. And for them, it was really wonderful because they got a chance to show future employers what it was like to be going down one path, working in person together, and then having to shift to this online environment, working where all 4 of their team members are living in different places, having to come together through Zoom, do presentations together, continue to work together, shift their messaging for pandemic, and then keep rolling. And so next semester, this experiential learning will continue. Students will get a chance to work in teams and be creating materials from scratch and doing metrics. And now we're getting even more creative on finding different ways to build in paid advertising and continue with micro certifications. So that's my general report. I will take it back to Mackenzie.
Thanks so much for sharing with us, Rebecca. I love talking about the Centers for Civic Engagement, but also your Comstrat 383 class, or 310 class, excuse me, that Chelsea also teaches as well. I actually show examples of that class in the recruitment presentations, again, before, we kind of all went virtual, and showing those campaigns and showing the actual social media sites and websites that the students created. Every time I showcase those, students' eyes, they just light up and they're like, wow, that is some real world experience. Companies are looking for people that can do that. And so it's just so great to be able to add that to your portfolio. I know a lot of students that really may not even be majoring in strategic communication or planning on taking that class just to kind of get that experience, particularly with the Google Analytics piece that you mentioned. So thank you so much for sharing. We really, really appreciate that. Those are the guest speakers that we do have for you guys today. Hopefully you learned a little bit about how the Murrow College both values experiential learning, but also how we have kind of transitioned through this time with COVID about how to still give you that experience when you're a student here in our college. It's something that's very valuable to, as you can see, our faculty, but also to other students and to our staff. So it's something that we're going to really focus on even going into the fall and future semesters. So we're really looking forward to seeing, what newscasts and what websites and what content our students are creating and how they're going to get creative with it, like I said, moving forward into these other semesters. So with that, I think we are going to go ahead and wrap up this video today. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing all those experiences with us. If you do have any questions, I'll go ahead and throw up, again, my contact information, as well as our awesome faculty members as well. Also, don't forget that Katie, our student ambassador, also has weekly office hours for those of you that maybe want to talk with another student to get her perspective on experiential learning, on how to get involved, or any of the other questions that you may have. So watch out for her office hours. Feel free to join those virtually over Zoom. She'd be happy to chat with you. And look forward to our future Murrow Minutes episodes that we have coming out this summer. We're going to be talking to your first year instructors about what your intro classes might look like this fall. We're also going to give you a fun virtual tour of Pullman. We'll kind of show you what that looks like heading into fall, so we're really excited for that. And we'll also have your advisors jump on to give you any last pieces of advice before classes start in August. So look forward to those. And until then, we'll go ahead and sign off here. Again, stay safe, stay healthy, and go Cougs.